When I used to make this mussels recipe back in my restaurant days, I always made sure I would at least try one before I sent it out. Quality control. But they were just so good. And at the end of the night, after serving up 20 to 25 orders, I had a full belly. It was a win-win. And I promise you, you don't want to miss this recipe. It's crazy good and it comes together in minutes. Let's start off by knocking out some prep. Sound good? Let's cook. I've got about 2 pounds of fresh mussels, which will easily feed 4 people as an appetizer or 2 people as a main entree. But first, let's briefly talk about how to store fresh mussels if you're not making them right away or even on the same day. Now, when you purchase fresh mussels, they'll commonly come in a mesh bag like this, and we're going to keep them in there for now, and we're going to transfer it over to a colander that's in a bowl. Now, mussels love to be ice cold, but also need to breathe. So what I was always taught is to completely cover them in ice and store them in the refrigerator. Now, as the ice melts, it will drip through the colander and into the bowl. You never want to let fresh mussels just sit in cold water. For freshness, these will hold in the refrigerator for 2 days and up to 3 days max. That's it. Mussels are a bivalve mollusk, so they're in the same family as things like oysters, clams, and scallops. Now, 80% of the mussels sold in North America come from Prince Edward Island, which is off the east coast of Canada. Now, these are about 2 to 3 inches in length, they're black in color, and they have a slightly sweet, slightly salty flavor and are just incredible. Now, another common mussel is known as the green lip or the New Zealand green mussel. These are bigger, they're about 3 to 4 inches. They have green lip right around the outside. They're bigger, they're meatier, and they are dang tasty. Now, if you can get them, amazing. We used to fly them in fresh almost every single day. However, if you can't, these PEI or Prince Edward Island mussels are going to be awesome. Here's what we're going to do to clean them up before we cook them. Be sure to remove them from the mesh bag if you haven't already, and then you want to look through and remove any damaged or broken mussels. These are no good, so just discard them. Now, if you happen to find a few mussels that are slightly open, just give them a few taps. If they do not close at all, that means unfortunately they're dead and you need to discard those. Now, here's what a live mussel will do that's slightly open after a few knocks. It will slowly close until it is sealed. This one's still good, so it's going in the pot. Next on the list for cleaning, you may find a few mussels that have some threads sticking out of it. These are beards, and also known as byssus threads. What they do is they help mussels attach to rocks. Now, when removing them, you don't want to pull up because you can damage the part of the shell, so you want to pull them down. But to do so, I recommend grabbing a paper towel because these are in there pretty good. Just simply pull down until it's removed, and then you're good to go. And then at this stage, I'm just going to transfer the mussels from the colander into the bowl, heading over to the sink, and what I want to do is cover them completely in cold water. Next up, I'm going to use my hands to vigorously rub them down on all sides as best I can. Now, you can use a brush, but for me, I don't think you need to go overboard here. I think your hands can absolutely get the job done. After just a few minutes of doing this, they should begin to feel smooth on that outside shell. And then we're going to let them sit in the water for about 10 minutes to help remove any sediment or sand or anything dirty that we don't want in our mussels. But let's be a good steward of our time and knock out a little bit of prep. What I'm going to do is small dice up 1 shallot. You could also use a red, yellow, white, or sweet onion if that's all you have. Be sure they are small diced, so as the mussels open up, they can find their way in there. Then I'm going to smash and finely mince up 6 whole garlic cloves, and you know my philosophy. If you are in love with garlic, feel free to add a few more cloves. No worries. Next up, I'll need about 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme. If you find that the stems are nice and tender, you should absolutely use them. There's tons of flavor in there. Now, if you come across a stem that happens to be a little woodier like this, you're going to want to remove the leaves. So hold the stem at the top with one hand and using your other hand, pinch the stem together and pull down to remove them. For this woody part, throw it in the freezer for stock. It's great. Then roll up your tender stems and fresh thyme leaves and give it a fine mince and briefly set it to the side. And the same thing goes for stems on fresh parsley. I need about 2 tablespoons total of this Italian flat leaf parsley, so after rolling it up, I'm also going to finely mince it. Let's head back over to where those mussels are. You can see the water's pretty dirty. We'll get a closer look here in a second. What I'm going to do is use my hands to get them out of that dirty water and set them back in the colander and give them one final rinse because they've been sitting in that dirty water. And here's a quick look of what those mussels have been sitting in. Just discard this, no need for it. At this stage, let's get cooking. I'm taking the garlic and the shallots over to the cooktop. I'm going to be using a 5-quart saucier from Made In. I love this pan. It's one of my favorites, especially when making risotto. What we're going to do at this stage is add in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Then we're cranking the heat up to medium, and we're going to add in our shallots and give it a quick, gentle season of coarse salt. Maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon here, just to help draw out some moisture. Then we're going to saute these for just 3 to 4 minutes. We want to get a light brown on them, just like this. Then we're stirring in our garlic. We're going to cook it just until fragrant, which only takes 30 to 45 seconds. Now let's add in our mussels to all that garlic shallot goodness, and we're going to give them a quick saute for about 2 minutes. Be sure to move the mussels around by rocking the pan back and forth and using your spoon to move them around to get all those ingredients and flavors incorporated into the mussels. And you'll see just after those few minutes they'll start to open up, but at this stage I'm going to deglaze with 1 cup of white wine. And one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what kind of white wine? And for me, any dry white, like a Chardonnay or a Sauvignon Blanc or a Pinot Grigio. This is a blend of a Chardonnay and a Catarratto Bianco from Italy. I got it because it was on sale at $7 down from 11. Plus, I like to drink it. And that's a great rule of thumb. And it's one that I learned from one of my favorite chefs, Chef Getchell, who taught saucier class in culinary school. He used to always say, look, if you don't drink it, I wouldn't cook with it. So if you've got box of wine, okay, fine. But it's not anything that I'm going to suggest. But any good dry will work that you will drink. The mussels have been cooking for just about 1.5 to 2 minutes. They're starting to open up a little bit. And now I'm going to add in 1 cup of good chicken stock. This is just going to make it saucier and more delicious. And I've got a great homemade recipe if you want to check out. Then we're going to give it a season with coarse salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Remember, mussels are from the ocean, so they're going to be slightly salty already, so don't go overboard here. Then just give them a quick mix to combine everything, place on a lid, and cook them over medium heat just for 2 to 3 minutes, or until the mussels are fully opened, just like this. Oh, the smells in here are so good. Now to finish these beauties off, we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, our fresh minced parsley, and our fresh thyme. Remember, you always finish with fresh herbs, you start with dry herbs. Mix all of these ingredients together, and then what we want to do is try one out. And I'll never forget one of my favorite chefs, Chef Humphrey, taught us to eat mussels like this. If there's a mussel shell without the mussel in it, grab that, and that's going to be your tongs. Open up another mussel, and then pinch it and pull it right out. I love this. Or of course, you could just use a fork. But wait a second, I'm forgetting one of my favorite things in this recipe. Toasted bread. We are going to thickly slice up a loaf of bread, and honestly, any good artisan bread here will work. Place the slices on the sheet tray, no parchment paper, and here's a little surprise for you. I've got some garlic confit and the oil on hand. So what I'm going to do is brush the tops of the bread with that oil. And you can check out how I make this recipe in my smoked boneless leg of lamb. But this is why I always make extra, because this stuff is gold and it can go amazing on other recipes like this one. Next, I'm going in the top third section of the oven under the broiler on high for just 1.5 to 2 minutes per side, or until toasty like this. And it's always up to you to ensure your food is delicious. A chef once told me you're only limited by your own creativity, so don't be scared of the food. Use these classic techniques to help pull out more flavor, like browning up the shallots, finishing with fresh herbs and butter. I promise you, you practice these things, your food's going to be incredible. All right, one more surprise as we plate up this food. Using a slotted spoon, let's get all of those mussels out of the pan and into a large bowl. Then grab a ladle and get all that delicious sauce and pour it all over the mussels. And as you can see, this is why you small dice up those shallots and garlic. Then just one more quick surprise. I'm going to take several of those garlic confit cloves and I'm going to spread it all over that toasty bread. This stuff is so good, you guys. Then place that right in the bowl with the mussels, and I'm going to finish with a little bit more finely minced fresh parsley. And my dad would tell me when he would travel for work, he would go to one of his favorite restaurants and just order mussels, a half loaf of bread, and a glass of wine, and that was his meal. That's how good this is. It's totally a main entree. And if you love seafood and different sauces, you have to check out my halibut recipe. I paired up with 3 different sauces. It's so good. I've got a great recipe video. I'll see you on there.